Hello, I'm ABXToyCam, and welcome back to another top 5 video. Today I have a blast from the past because I'm going to be going through the top 5 worst bugs ever for Minecraft Xbox 360. So of course this covers all of Minecraft console, but since the 360 has been around the longest, it has had some of the worst and some of the most interesting bugs that I figured would have to be worth discussing in today's video. So that's what I'm doing today. Hopefully you do all enjoy it. If you do, please do like it and let me know. It helps out the channel and lets me know you do like these top 5 videos. But let's get straight into it, shall we? With number 5 here. So what is the 5th worst bug ever? In my opinion, it has to be a TU31 bug to do with clay generation. So the worst bit about this bug is that it actually was in the 1.6.6 version they copied off, but they made the same mistake and they copied it over to the console. And the reason this was such a big deal is because it made clay much rarer than ever intended and much rarer than could ever be supported by the console. So what do I mean by that? So basically, if you as of TU1 all the way up until TU2, if you started in New World, you had about a 1% chance of finding clay, and that's not like per pool or per ocean. That is per world. You had this tiny minuscule chance of ever finding clay. Some seeds would have it, but very few would, and it meant that out of all the friends and all the people I knew at the time, only one person had a little entry on the leaderboard for clay because they got lucky once, but everyone else had no clay whatsoever. So basically, one of the cool features that had just been added wasn't in the game at the time, and it wasn't too big of a deal because the game had just launched. Everyone's enjoying everything else, but it is kind of amusing to me the fact that there was this big launch of the game, and just one of the features was essentially missing because of a generation bug. So yeah, clay generation in TU1 is one of the big bummers to me. Like I kept trying to look for clay and never found it, and I never actually entirely knew because again the game was fresh, and it was because of a clay generation bug that I think is the 5th worst bug in the game. The 4th worst bug in the game is a little bit more abrasive than just not having a block that I otherwise didn't know too much about, because the 4th worst bug in my opinion has to be a TU14 bug to do with mining down. So I have no idea how this one made it into the final version of TU14, because until they fixed this in TU15, which was a very short time after, a week afterwards, basically every time you mined down, you would, kind of glitch into the block below you. And also there was a secondary bug to do with this, where you would take random amounts of falling damage for no reason, while just falling down. So you could fall down like 1.5 blocks and you take falling damage, for instance. And yeah, this stuff would be absolutely terrifying and just weird, and it meant that playing survival was very tricky, because admittedly you could avoid digging down, like you go into caves and only dig sideways, but it just meant that if you wanted to get anything done, which involved digging the block below you, it was really tricky. Also, if you took if you fell into a half slab, you take bizarre falling damage, and it just meant that in general this update was really bad for trying to go anywhere but up. And maybe it was a big lesson for us all, but I was not a big fan of it at all. And even in creative, the same thing happened, and it was just not a fan of it at all. So yeah, that was mining down / random fall damage from TU14. The next worst bug here is actually another generation bug, but it's kind of the same deal as the Nether, because this was back before we had Reset Nether. When TU7 came out, they brought Nether fortresses to the game to help us prepare for the Ender Dragon, which was coming very shortly afterwards. So everyone wants to get one of these Nether fortresses so they can find blazes and get ready for the the end, because we had end portals at the time. However, one of the big issues is they copied the Nether generation from the PC and just made it smaller on the console. But one of the big issues of doing this is it meant that most worlds didn't have a Nether fortress, because Nether fortresses are really rare on PC as opposed to console, where you always get one. And this meant there was a real issue where you'd go to your Nether, oh no Nether fortress, guess I can't go to the end. And you got to remember just how heartbreaking that was, because at the time we had no idea a Reset Nether option was coming. So it was just like, oh, everything I've worked for, I guess it's all useless. And fortunately they did fix it. They did add a Reset Nether option because of this big bug, and that's actually why we have it there today. Along the same time, they added it so that blazes would drop glowstone dust for the same reason. And yeah, they made the Nether very different on console because of this big bug. So although it achieved some good things, the the soul-crushing nature of just, oh, I don't have a Nether fortress, my entire world is ruined, is something that I think a lot of people had problems getting past. Fortunately for me, I didn't have an end portal anyway, so I guess I was immune to it because I was already soul broken. But anyway, let's move on to the second worst bug ever in my opinion, and this is one that everyone gets always confused about when I bring it up. But basically, yeah, I have a world which has 100 Ender Dragons in it. I think it's more than 100, but roughly 100 Ender Dragons in it, and it is because of a Ender Dragon or just mob duplication bug in TU17. So admittedly, this bug was a little bit harder to pull off than all these other ones. It wasn't just you dig down and the game breaks. It was basically when you went to the end, or when you transferred a world from the 360 to the 1, every time you went into that world, the mobs would just double. I mean, there was a specific thing you had to do. I forgot the exact number of steps, but basically, if you went into a world, it would just double all of the mobs. If you had 2 ocelots in a room, you'd have 4, and this creates some real issues for some people. Like, you could go way past the spawn limit. I know a friend of mine had like 200, wolf spawn because of this. Just so many crazy issues as a result of this. But my personal one that I figured would be funny is the fact that this worked in the end too. So I just went out, went in, went out, went in, and it ended up with me having 100 Ender Dragons. So the reason this isn't so bad, I think it's a hilarious bug by itself. The reason this is so bad is that because when they fixed fixed it with TU18, they really only intended to fix people who had accidentally doubled their mobs. They had no idea how to fix people with 100 of Ender Dragons, for instance, and yeah, it crashed the game and broke it forever. So yeah, that's the reason this is such a big deal. I mean, having 100 Ender Dragons is horrendous on your frame rate. Like, you're stuck there at some point. You can see when I show you the video, this is genuine frame rate. This isn't me like having a broken capture. This is what the game was running at. And yeah, if you combine that with the fact that it then broke, it's like, oh yeah, so my world is broken forever. That's why I have a big sign that says RIP old world, because I just can't go back in there because it's permanently broken. I give it a check every few updates, but they don't care about that world. They haven't fixed it, and that is the second worst bug of all time. The first worst bug of all time is a little bit worse than if you abuse something, your world becomes unusable forever, because it was where if you did something by accident, your world becomes unusable forever because it would be deleted. So this was a TU25 bug. That is the only time they've ever used emergency certification, because they made a very big error. So the way this bug worked was that if you wanted to rename any of your worlds, or if you deleted any of your worlds, instead of doing any necessary actions to them, it would delete your top world, so the world you've been in most recently. So this means a lot of people's big worlds they spend their time in, a lot of people's survival worlds, they've done this or that, and if you hadn't ever backed it up, if you just left it there, what would happen is, you'd go to rename something else, and then your world would be missing, and you'd have no idea why, and then you'd realize it's because there is a save deletion bug. So fortunately, this was only in the game, and only for one day on one platform, and the reason it was only on the 360 was because they used special code there. They made a massive mistake while developing it, and as a result of that, they are extra careful when certifying now, because like I said, this is one of the most devastating bugs in Minecraft history. You've got to bear in mind, like, it's terrible when, like, if you accidentally delete a world, that's bad. If you accidentally rename a world and that deletes something else permanently, because, there's no bug fix that can bring back a deleted file, that is horrendous, and that is why it is the worst bug ever. So yeah, those are 5 terrible bugs that have been around since Minecraft has existed. I hope you did all enjoy today's video. If you did like it, please do like it and let me know. Share if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here. Let me know in the comments down below what your worst bug ever is, because I know everyone has, different feelings on different bugs. Maybe you think the item room crashes were the worst. Maybe you think I think there's an item room with mapping that just crashes the game. Or maybe you hate some of the host option glitches. Whatever it is, let me know in the comments down below. And besides that, I hope you did all enjoy it, because I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye, everybody.